Let's lock in, let's preordain, and let's bolt face.
This week on Battlechads. Hello everybody and welcome to this special Deck Tech episode of Battlechads. I'm Josh and I'm here with a Team Chad Magic member, Krystian with a K. Hi Krystian, how you doing?
Hello. Also known as Gandhi Floss on Modo.
Gandhi Flosser Modo, yeah, you might have seen him casting some blue spells, some blue cantrips. You are a blue cantrip enjoyer like me, aren't you?
Absolutely through and through. Blue, black, blue, red, you name it, give it to me. As long as I can cantrip and remove your creatures and then hit you in the face eventually, I'll be happy.
Eventually, but this deck will hopefully do it a lot quicker than eventually, because the deck we're going to talk today is Izzet Prowess, which is a deck you've picked up and really have been doing really well with it, and I've enjoyed it, and it's been really exciting to see you work on it because I've noticed you've been chatting a lot about it with the fellow chads in the team chats and stuff, and you're really excited with this deck, and you actually top 8'd our modern charity tournament with it, didn't you, as well? Or top 4, did you?
Yeah. Yeah, so I picked up the deck after just having really bad experiences with Frog, as Frog kind
Yeah.
of tapered off. So I was looking to the next blue-based strategy, but kind of tempo-y, kind of cagey, kind of can turn the corner. And this deck was kind of the next step forward. A lot different, obviously, it's way more aggressive.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to turn any corners because it's always pressing.
hmm
But that was kind of my next step forward. Yeah.
So this is a really exciting deck type because we've actually had a few people request this one, so we're really happy to have someone who from the team who's actually been putting the work into this and actually getting the results with it. So before we talk about the deck itself, Krystian, let's talk about you a little bit. Who is Krystian? When did you start playing Magic? And yeah, just let's introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so I started playing Magic as an accident. We went with some friends to a local game shop in Huddersfield, which is kind of where my local Magic
So
shop
great,
is and
great
my
players at
scene is.
Huddersfield. Great players at
Really
Huddersfield.
good. I
Yeah,
recommend it if anyone is ever thinking or considering it. Do pop down because it's really good. A really good hub for Magic and also good
really good.
level of Magic as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stumbled upon Magic by accident. A couple of friends we picked up some intro decks, started playing, and ever since then, those were Innistrad, original Innistrad intro
Original
decks. So
Innistrad.
Return to Ravnica, Innistrad, that kind of time. It was
Nice.
a really good place to get in. I actually remember the first pack I ever opened was a Snapcaster Mage. That was
Wow.
a sign. But it was back when intro packs came with intro decks came with booster packs in them. I opened the booster pack, it was a
Yeah.
Snapcaster Mage. My intro deck was a black red vampire deck, so I traded that Snapcaster Mage for an Olivia Voldaren. So you can think about the value then. But yeah, so I kind of started Magic then, and then later on. I really got kind of into the competitive side of
Mhm.
things. So now I'm kind of, grinding the RCQs, kind of doing that, trying to get myself out there, going to as many RCs as I can. And I play a lot of Modo as well. So
Mhm.
with Izzet Prowess, it was actually the longest streak as I was preparing to go to RC Antwerp. I managed to get 5 trophies with that deck, which is the highest I've had so
Nice.
far. So that was a good little achievement. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. I do like my older formats as well, and then the really weird formats, the paupers, the pre-moderns,
Nice.
anywhere where I can stretch those kind of thinking muscles. I really
With,
enjoy it.
with all
So
the
that's
best
what that's
cantrips.
that's me.
Those formats are the best
Absolutely,
cantrips.
that's correct. Anywhere I could play ponder, preordain, portent, maybe gush,
Ooh, a bit of
get me
portent.
in there. Yeah.
So you are a really consistent player since you've been on the team, and even since I've known you, you've always been sort of the higher echelons of like competitive scenes locally and also internationally in the RC circuit and all that sort of stuff. You consistently are qualifying for RCs, close to the Pro Tour. You're probably another runner-up to the Pro Tour after Gianmarco and Matt. You're really consistent player, so it's good to have you on the pod, and I think this will be an excellent deck tech episode.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Cool. So, prowess is we're going to talk about, and essentially how this pod's going to look is we're going to get the deck up in a minute. We'll talk about the deck breakdown itself. You've kindly attached, you're kindly going to send us a sideboard that the listener can peruse in their own time. We'll attach the list as well, but we will go through the deck as we normally do, any tips and tricks that come up, reasons why you've chose certain cards. The numbers are interested in this deck, so we'll talk about the numbers, and then essentially when we get to the sideboard and that, it won't be in out in matchups. It'll be like why we've included this these cards in the sideboard, and if you want the in and out, then go look at the sideboard.
Yeah, this is a real exclusive because I haven't really shared my my sideboard guide with anyone. My sideboard strategy, my sideboard kind of
Yeah.
how I approach certain matchups and certain strategies. I think what might be apparent today is my thinking and my approach is
Mm-hmm.
kind of very based on my own findings. So what you can see and what you're going to hear out of this pod and out of my sideboard guide is you're going to see kind of an insight into my mind and how I
Nice.
approach this type of decks and these types of matchups. Yeah.
So here's the deck. We've got Izzet Prowess. So as I said before, we're going to talk about the cards, pretty much cards one by one, and we'll start, Krystian, with, well, before we start actually, what is the game plan of this deck? How does this deck win? How does a turn 1, a turn 2, a turn 3 look like? And how fast can this deck really be?
So realistically, the deck can kill on turn 3, turn 4 very, very often, and it will happen. It is a tempo aggro strategy. It's all about getting under your opponent and having such an overwhelming advantage, either of pure aggression or the kind of slippery threat and the interaction that you have to just eke out that last point of damage. It can be extremely aggressive at one side, but it can also be very, very cagey, and it can grind out
Mm-hmm.
those wins when it needs to, which is why I like this deck so much. So when I picked it up originally, I was approaching it as an aggro deck, which is the wrong way to think about it. It is
Okay,
not burn.
interesting.
It is not as aggressive as many people think it is. One of the main reasons is you can kill them in one turn. You can set up for the 1-2 punch, one turn, second turn. Cards like Flickshot Show Off, for example. I'm just gonna start off with that first. You can
Sure.
already kind of imagine how you can suspend the Flickshot Show Off, and then you can hang that guillotine above someone's head, saying this is going to come down eventually. And then your opponent has to play on two axes, and that is a massive, massive theme of this deck where you're stretching your opponent to have to fight on two fronts. The threats that are already on the board and hitting them in the face, and the threats that are imminent or that can come or that can just explode out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that is kind of what this deck is about, and that's why it's so strong.
Yeah, because at first, when I first picked this up, I also played it almost like Infect. You play like a Protect the Queen sort of thing, and you
Yeah.
you play like you put everything into that one pump spell, and if it dies, it's a bit glass cannon. But that you are right, like there's so many ways to approach this deck. Because I remember trying this deck, and I was against a control deck, and I had two slick shot show offs out on plot, and I was just attacking them with Dragon Rage Channelers or Monetary Swift Spears, but with the slick shot like hovering over them, as you said before. But this can also go wide, right? Because ever since the printing of Corey Steelcutter, this is given, because Izzet Prowess was always a sort of archetype in Modern. It was playing all I can't remember what was that card, the blue red one, which every time you cast a spell it got a +1/+1 counter.
It was Sprite Dragon. But since Corey Steelcutter's printing, this is why the deck is good. I think without Corey Steelcutter, the deck would just be that kind of tier 2, tier 3 deck. But now that we've got Corey Steelcutter, it is a hard to remove threat. Because not every deck is going to have a way of removing an artifact quickly enough or efficiently enough. So this is really the card that holds the deck together incredibly well. It is the card that lets you set up early turns with threats, or it's the card that kind of goes wide. Or one of the sneaky ways of winning is using it as an actual equipment onto something to give it trample to kill your opponent. It's fantastic. It just does everything for the deck.
Yeah, it's sneaky that like sticking it on the slick shot show off or something and just pushing it through damage. Because we'll talk about sort of the combat tricks in a minute and how evasion is it can be a bit of an issue in this deck. There's no berserk in this deck, for example. But let's break the deck down a little bit then. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the creature package. Well, so we've already mentioned Slickshot Show Off. It is a 2-mana creature, 1 and a red. It's a 1/2 flying and haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Slickshot Show Off gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So that's when you'll almost like your Storm-esque sort of strategy comes in. You'll pump it, and also your prowess triggers, prowess. It's not exactly prowess, but prowess triggers happen. But it also has the plot mechanic that we saw, which is a 1 and a red, and you can plot it and then cast it for free on a later turn. Great with Corey Steelcutter, as you would agree.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
But let's tell me about this card. Like, this card is aggressive, right?
So this is your kind of your top end creature, which is it's really really funny because it's only 2 mana, but the suite of creatures, the 12 creatures is kind of standard now. Where we used to experiment a little bit more with cards like Questing Druid or maybe even the old iterations would have played the mage, the 1 mana 1/2 of prowess that would put a Soulscar Mage. So
Mage,
some previous iterations would have played those kind of builds with different creatures, but this is very very standard because of Chorus Steelcutter. So your Slickshot Show Off is your biggest threat to basically anyone. It is the card that can kill in that one turn. It gets doubly pumped with a Mutagenic Growth, which is really really big. It gets the +4/+2. For 0 life, sorry, for 0 mana, just for 2 life. It is the one card that really, really, really kind of puts the fear into your opponent. So Slickshot Show Off has got the flexibility of being able to also be plotted, so you can go, Corey Steelcutter plus Bauble on turn 2. Or maybe you plot a Slickshot on 2, you go Corey Steelcutter into Slickshot Show Off. You have so many avenues of play. And Slickshot Show Off is also one of the cards that benefits most from Lava Dart, just because a Lava Dart becomes a bolt basically.
Yeah.
You cast a Lava Dart for 1 mana. It is 1 damage +2 for the Slickshot Show Off, so it's like a bolt, and then you get to cast it for free by sacrificing a mountain with flashback. Gives it another 3 damage. It's just so much so quickly. So yeah, that's Slickshot Show Off. However, it is also extremely fragile in the sense of that it doesn't gain any toughness. So you have to be very cagey and very, very sure that what you're doing or what your current game plan is correct, because you might just sometimes play a Slickshot Show Off as bait, or just to trigger that Corey Steelcutter. So your Slickshot Show Off only 2 toughness. It does die to everything Swift Breeze, especially against Fatal Push decks. It is one of the cards that gets cut first for sideboarding, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. Cool. That's interesting. Okay. So you got your Monastery Swiftspear. Really, it's a card as old as Modern itself. It feels like.
Yeah, I mean it's fantastic. Monastery Swiftspear is such a boon to this deck. So it's one of the ways that you can get turn 3 kills without something like a Slickshot Show Off. If you go Monastery Swiftspear on 1, Monastery Swiftspear on 2, turn 3, if you have triple bolt, that is game over. So it's 1 damage on turn 1, 2 damage on turn 2. That puts them to 17, and then it's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is that right?
So it'll be, so if you've got 3 bolts, that's 9,
and the 1 power from each of the Monastery Swiftspears. Yeah, so it's another way that you can just kill them on turn 3. If you go Swiftspear 1, Swiftspear on 2, you can just get rid of them. It's fantastic. This is one of the creatures that really likes the fact that it has prowess instead of just the +2/+0, because the back end of Monastery Swiftspear, the 1/2, it can get big to the point where all of a sudden you can block with it, you can attack, and be sure that it will survive. So the 2 toughness is actually massive on Swiftspear, and it's interesting because a lot of the times people think about, oh, what is the best turn 1 play? Do I play a Monastery Swiftspear on turn 1 so that I can attack on turn 2, or do I play a DRC on turn 1 and then do I play a Monastery Swiftspear on turn 2? Funnily enough, it's actually counterintuitive. In my opinion, a DRC on turn 1 is better because a Monastery Swiftspear will deal 1 point of damage, regardless. Whereas on turn 2, your Dragon Ray Channeler can also attack, so you're still dealing that 2 points of damage either way. So it is counterintuitive. And as we're speaking about DRC, let's move on to DRC. I think this is the best creature in the deck. I think this creature is just incredible. It does everything. It allows you to pseudo draw extra cards.
Hmm.
One of the big downfalls of the deck, it really doesn't have any way of looting. So
Right.
if
Okay.
you just have cards in hand, it doesn't really have ways of getting rid of those cards in hand. But DRC can prevent that and can make sure
Hmm.
that the cards that you draw are ones that you want. The ability to surveil is actually, I think it's the best part of the
Yeah.
creature. Yeah, flying's great. The plus two is great, but the fact that you can surveil whenever you cast something is obscenely good. I reckon if you're playing against prowess, removing this creature is very, very important because when you have a DRC in play, and as your opponent is playing out their turns, in
Hmm.
your head you're thinking, "What do I want to see on the top of my deck?" And DRC lets you do that. Yeah, the good old play of DRC Bauble is very, very good.
Hmm.
However, now with Chorus Steelcut, you might want to keep that Bauble back in your hand. So DRC it just tacks on draw half a card on every single non-creature spell you cast.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously good. The flying is also very, very good. But remember that it does have its downfalls. It has to attack every single turn, but
Yeah.
you can use it to its advantage. You can really kind of surprise opponents a lot. For example, you can bait your opponents into, let's say you're stacking for one, you
Mm.
cast another spell, either that gives you delirium or the top card, maybe you know it, maybe you don't, maybe you want to risk it and kind of try to hit delirium. All of a sudden you're attacking for flying three. In the same vein, you can also sometimes you can really catch your opponents out by, let's say you have four types in your graveyard,
Yeah.
and it's just exactly four types. One of them is a lava dart. If you cast that lava dart with flashback, you can take DRC off of delirium. So as you can see,
Yeah. There's a
it
to and
goes up
fro.
and all of a sudden it has delirium. All of a sudden it doesn't have delirium. Your opponent, they know that you're going to attack for three next turn. All of a sudden you turn off delirium. It can now block. Maybe you mutagenic growth it or something. So it can go either way. The lava darting a Ragavan and then sorry, lava darting a Ocelot Pride and then also being able to block a Ragavan
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something like that. So it is fantastic in that sense. It just does everything.
Because delirium, obviously, this is a delirium card. Whenever you cast non-creature source surveil one, and then delirium is it gets +2/+2. This is a delirium deck essentially because you have other cards in the deck which we're going to talk about that has delirium, which
Yeah.
helps the game the sort of strategy to this. But one thing I want to know is like, do you ever say like before you draw bolt the opponent to get a surveil kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on where you are in the game, how far the game's progressed, what kind of state we're in. But it's 100% a real option. The thing is about this deck, it's so extremely fluid. There is no set way to play. You are not going to have the same experience every single game
Hmm.
that you play. You will have every single game will be different because of how different each card, what role it can play. So Lava Dart, yes, obviously it kills the Ocelot Prides, it kills Ragavans, but also it can just deal one to the face, as you're saying, on
Hmm.
your upkeep to check what that top card is. If you've already got two lands in hand and you've played two lands, you do not want to draw another one because, as I said, you cannot loot them away. You can't get rid of the cards that you already drawn
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
hand. So it's so, so important. And yeah, absolutely. And another thing is what was I going to say? Is looking at the top card of your library is one thing, but maybe just realizing that actually, if I just bolt them this turn, now DRC hits for three. That's already six damage. They've
Yeah.
probably fetched and shocked. That's another three damage.
Hmm.
That's what? That's nine damage. You're halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really cool card. It's ever since this card was printed, people were like Mishra's Bauble loves this card. Um, the tricks you can do with it are really interesting. Like you said about, it's really interesting. You said about you have no loot effect, so actually doing it proactively while also enabling your game strategy. Bolt in the face, playing non-creature spells, playing cantrips, which we're going to talk about next. Is essentially this card is just giving you free stuff while you're just doing your game, right? While you're just doing your game plan.
Yeah, that's right. And usually what you'll see when playing this deck is turn one you want to be deploying a threat.
Hmm.
Rarely will you have the kind of the turn one where you fetch for a Thundering Falls. It's rare that
Yeah, yeah.
happens. However, it does sometimes happen because the rest of your hand is so good. Maybe the rest of your hand is double Chorus Steel Cutter, Bauble, expressive iteration, preordain, etc. Right? So those hands are
Hmm.
keepable as well. But usually you want to have that turn one play, turn one threat. Maybe you're playing against Boros and you've kept a hand of lava darts and bolts, fine. But usually you want to have that DRC or Swiss Spear on turn one, 100%.
Cool. So should we talk about that was a creature package done, or the actual creatures themselves? It's not just the only creature that you'll see in this deck, but are you happy to move on to the sort of cantrips now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big differences in my list that I play, this is actually I will give a shout out, and I think it's definitely I'd be remiss not to mention that this is inspired by my Rizzi. So I once I was already kind of playing this deck, I once watched Mattia Rizzi on Twitch play this deck, but he decided to play three expressive iterations instead of four. And I decided to try it out, and it really, really makes sense. So most of the lists that you'll see online, the Izzet Prowess list, will be playing less mutagenic growths, and they'll be playing more expressive iterations.
Hmm.
However, these two cards kind of fight against the game plans that you're trying to do. So the expressive iteration is the card that you want to be playing on turn 3, 4, 5
Yeah,
to
it's
kind
not a
of give
turn
you
two
that
card, is it?
extra. No, it's not. It never is, because obviously you want to be exiling that land that you then also play. You
Hmm.
you you want expressive iteration to be drawing you two cards, which is really good for two mana, right? You
Hmm.
get to draw two cards for two. And with a DRC, you get to look at three cards, not sorry, you get to look at four cards, not
Yeah.
three. So yeah, it's incredibly powerful. However, the three expressive iteration is because of the higher number of mutagenic growth. So game one, I want to be aggressive, I want to be fast, and I want to really put the put the
Hmm.
accelerator on and really kind of put my opponent against the wall and say, look, you have to deal with this. And they're probably not going to be as prepared as they could be post board.
Hmm.
So the three expressive iteration is because I want to be playing more mutagenic growths. Expressive iteration just does incredible things for you. So let's say you've played the turn one DRC, it dies. You play the turn two Chorus Steel Cutter, maybe they've Celestial Purged it if they're playing it, right?
Hmm.
But then you get to go DRC expressive iteration on turn four, let's say, right? You've not even made a land drop yet. DRC will let you look at another card. You then look at another three. You get to set up your next kind of turns,
Hmm.
your draws. It just does so much for so little. And yeah, it's a fantastic card. I would definitely play three at least. You can play four main. Obviously, I'm playing the fourth in the sideboard, but you can obviously go up to four, and then we've got preordain, which is the best cantrip in modern at the moment. What we have.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, this deck massively gained a lot from the preordain unban. I
Yes.
can't really imagine it playing something else. I think it would be
Consider
playing
maybe,
different colors.
or
What's
maybe
that?
consider maybe. Don't know.
Consider possibly, but again, DRC, it lets you look at three cards. You get to surveil
Yeah, yeah,
one, scry two, and then draw a card. You can go four cards deep with a
yeah,
DRC in
yeah.
play. So actually, you can just hear, the how much of a role DRC plays in this deck.
Hmm.
Because I keep mentioning it, it
Yeah.
just it just it just improves every single card in the deck. So being able to look four cards deep is incredible. And a preordain and a DRC, or even two DRCs or three
Hmm.
DRCs, it will find you the card that you need. Sometimes you need to look for those bolts. Maybe you just need to finish the opponent off with a couple of burn spells.
Yeah.
Maybe you're looking for that mutagenic growth to save someone, or to save a creature, or maybe you're looking for one of those two violent urges to really put the game out. So yeah, preordain, fantastic card. There's not much to say. One thing that I will mention though
Go on.
is there are only seven sorcerers in this deck, and this is the Delirium deck. So most of the time, you're going to find that your Delirium is land, creature, artifact, and instant.
Okay.
If your creatures are in the bin, that's not good. But obviously, you might be surveilling them away. But often enough times you might miss delirium by that sorcery. So if you're not as disciplined with your DRCs, you need to follow a clear game plan. You can't look at a top card of the deck with a DRC and think, wow, this is a good card, I want to keep it. No, you have to think, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What is the next turn going to look like? What is my opponent likely to do if I do this or if I don't do this? Do I really want to draw this card? Usually the answer is no, because there's just another card that you can draw, a different card.
Yeah, yeah.
So you probably you're probably going to be missing those for Delirium, but this is the way that I found that it works best.
Yeah, because an example that'd be like you surveil, and there's like a DR, like a slickshot show off on the top, which is like a really good card to see. However, you've got two lands in hand, or maybe just nothing that maybe like a Mishra's Bauble, and you're like, well, this slickshot show off isn't
Yeah,
doing the. It's a good card, but it's not doing what I need it to do right now. So in the bin, and
exactly.
and that could be the difference between delirium turn or not, essentially, couldn't it?
Yeah, delirium is one thing, but also being able to do things on your next couple of turns. So, a perfect example, Six Shot Show Off is a card that's very kind of it's either now or never. You either
Mm.
want it or you don't because it's just not following the game plan. If you have a game going at the moment where you've got Chorus Steel Cutter in play, you've got no lands in hand, you preordain and you look at Saw, are you you surveil that top card and it's a
Mhm.
Slick Shot Show Off and you're like, oh, this is great because I can play a Slick Shot Show Off and I have no lands in hand. I've just got these action spells. Well, I'm going to kill him with this.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to remember that you're not drawing that land afterwards. You're going to play that Slick Shot Show Off. You can't play all those cards in your hand. You're actually a turn or even two behind. You're putting yourself behind. So you need to keep that momentum. That non-stop pressure is really important with this deck.
Cool. I kind of want to, with your cantrips, I want to include. Let's talk about the artifacts now because we've gone on about Story Corey Steelcutter. It's one of the best cards in the deck. It's a go wide deck. Important. You mentioned before about the equipment. So I'm going to read the card out for
Yeah,
those who don't know what it is. So a quick creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and haste. Okay. It has flurry. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn, and that's including your opponent's turn, right? You create
yeah.
a 1/1 white monk creature with prowess, and then you may attach this equipment on for free. And the equip is 1 and a red, and you can just simply equip it to any creature, and it will get trample and haste.
And
Excellent card.
+1/+1. Yeah,
+1/+1. Do you have any
fantastic card.
do you have any sort of like, I don't know, in-game examples where that you've sort of used this outside the box to get that win in there?
Yeah, 100%. So, Chorus Steel Cutter, there's loads of things to say about Chorus Steel Cutter. Obviously, the easiest and the level kind of zero play, super kind of entry level play is you play Chorus Steel Cutter on turn two, and then you play Mishra's Bauble. You
Mhm.
create a monk and you hit him for two. Great, fantastic. That is good by itself. The monk is a 2/2. It has prowess, it has haste, it has trample. It is great. However, you can then kind of extrapolate Chorus Steel Cutter to so many different, ways. You can say, okay, I have my Chorus Steel Cutter, and this is going now. I'm just going to use this to its maximum potential. Chorus Steel Cutter can be 3 or 4 or 5 cards drawn worth of cards
Mhm.
because it makes basically more Swiss spears. It
Yeah.
makes 2/2 Swiss spears. It's incredible. So you can treat it as a way of preserving cards in your hand and preserving cards that you don't have to spew everything. You can actually keep a lot in your hand and play a very, very cagey match where you 1 for 1, but actually your 1 for 1 is different because they're spending cards out of their hands to directly kill, for example, the monks, or they are blocking with their
Mhm.
creatures that they've cast mana for to kind of trade with them or kill them. But all you're doing on your side is maybe playing a Preordain and a Mishra's Bauble. They're
Yeah.
all replacing themselves. They're all creating kind of the next step forward for
Mhm.
you. You're digging deeper into your deck. You're sculpting your hand to kind of progress the game forward while making twos, while
Yeah. Yeah.
attacking them, and they have prowess. It's fantastic. It's incredible. And one of the ways that you can think of outside the box with Chorus Steel Cutter is you don't always have to equip it to the to the new monk token. Sometimes you just leave the Chorus Steel Cutter on the original monk. You create the second monk, but you don't have to equip it because that monk that's already on the Steel Cutter, or the Steel Cutter is already on the first monk. That monk is 1 power bigger
Yeah.
because it's already a 2/2. When you play that first or second spell, it's a 3/3. It's a 4/4. Yeah, you can create that another 1/1,
And it's
right?
got
And when it
trample.
moves over, obviously. Yeah, and it's got trample and it has haste. Another thing is you can just equip a Chorus Steel Cutter to something like a Monastery's Wrist Spear or a Slick Shot Show Off. Evasion, you only have Dragon Rage Channeler sometimes as a flyer, most of the times, and Slick Shot Show Off if you've cast it. And then if you have enough mana to then also equip it to, it's 2 mana. 2 mana is a lot in this deck.
Hmm.
So giving something trample like a
Yeah.
like a Swift Spear, it's amazing because it's one of the ways that your violent urge becomes a team of battle rage.
Mhm.
For those who remember for those who remember Death Shadow, Grixis Death
Yeah. Yeah.
Shadow, you would make a big Death Shadow, go low on life, and then you would swing with, let's say, a 7/7 or an 8/8, and then you team of battle rage to give it double strike and trample.
Hmm.
Well, another card in this deck, Violent Urge, one of the ways that you do close out games with really, really quickly. It gives it double strike and +1/+0. With a Chorus Steel Cutter on that creature, it also gains trample. So it's kind of your 1 mana team battle rage combo kind of that
Yeah.
you put together out of multiple blocks. But yeah, Chorus Steel Cutter, obscene card. So one of the ways that you can really extract most value out of it is when you play against decks such as Esper Blink or those kind of decks that are a bit more fair,
Hmm.
because it's just a massive headache for
Yeah,
them. They need to
using a
spend
solid
multiple cards.
using a solitude on a monk token is pretty good for you,
Yeah,
right?
exactly right. Yeah, and you know, and once you stuck a start Cory Steel Cutter onto the board, you don't really need to do anything else.
Mm,
You are just basically saying to your opponent, you now have to deal with this creature or this artifact because it will kill you.
mm,
And meanwhile, I've got Swift Spears in my hand, I have DRCs in my
mm.
hand. I might not even be casting them
Yeah.
because they have to deal with this now. If I go Swift Spear, and I also have a Chorus Steel Cut with a monk. If they go Solitude Ephemerate, that's a bit too much value for me. I don't want you to have that much value, Mr. Opponent. I want you just to spend your cards
Mhm.
in a worse way so that I can gain more value. So yeah, Chorus Steel Cut, incredible card. And it's probably the reason why this deck is a thing.
So Mistress Bauble then is like I would sort of see this as almost like a cantrip, but it is in here to enable your low to the ground prowess triggers, and also I guess as well to fuel your delirium package. How would you see Mistress
Yeah,
Bauble in this
Mrs.
deck? Like, is it like a really key part of this deck?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's zero. It's a zero cost, delirium enabling, cantripping, information giving card. It's just phenomenal. So me, Mishra's Bauble works fantastic with anything with prowess and your Slickshot Show Off and your Chorus Steel Cutter. It's just amazing. So Mishra's Bauble, another deck that sorry, another card that if you again remember Grixis of Shadow, it was
hmm,
an all-star in that deck as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
because that deck, that deck also used Mishra's Bauble. So Mishra's Bauble, one of the key ways that's probably going to be turning on your Unholy Heat as well.
hmm,
So yes, fantastic card. You can use it in so many ways. You can use it by obviously giving prowess triggers,
hmm,
or you can use it for information. You can use it in all sorts of ways. Remember that you can bauble yourself. One of the big downfalls that I've seen is people, new players pick up the deck and they cast bauble their opponent, kind of draw or forget to draw in their upkeep, and it's a lot more flexible than that because you can cast a bauble, and I would genuinely advise to cast a bauble when you can get more value out of it. So if there is a Chorus Steel Cut trigger to be had,
yeah,
if there is a Dragon Rage Channeler trigger to be had, then I would cast a bauble. If you're just casting a bauble for one prowess trigger, unless you're desperate for information or you're desperate for the extra card, I just wouldn't play it.
yeah,
Maybe you're desperate for delirium, but if it's just turn one, just turn two,
yeah.
just hold off. You don't have to play
Just
it.
casting it for casting's sake is just you
Yeah,
need to get
yeah,
more value out of it.
and that goes for correct, and that goes for every single card in this deck. Every single choice and every single decision that you make has to be conscious. You have to be thinking about the end goal. Why am I doing this? What am I gaining? How is my
Hmm.
opponent going to react to this? And if they do or if they don't, what's going to happen? And what are the consequences? So every single card in this deck that you cast, that you play, and how you use them, how you utilize them, be creative because they work in multiple ways, but you have to be very conscious about why you're doing things in this deck.
Yeah.
Mishra's Bauble as well, fantastic for looking for doing a mini surveil as well. Looking at the top card of your own library, doing your opponent's turn, maybe doing it in their draw step, or sorry, in their upkeep.
Hmm.
It's really good also for things like post board. I know we're going to get in the sideboard later on, but post board being able to bauble for information.
Yeah.
If you're playing against someone like Goryo's Vengeance, for example, if you bauble them and you see a really key card there, you can then stop in their draw step, surgical, get that extra card out. You know that you've obtained more information. It's fantastic.
Mm.
It's really really good because decks like this usually don't obtain any information from their opponent,
Yeah.
and this is just one way of eking that little bit extra bit of value.
Cool. Um, so then we move on to sort of the ammo that sort of fuels this deck. The aggressive sort of stuff in the instance. And you said before, we only play 7 sorceries. This is a deck that likes to dictate the pace of the battle essentially, and having so many instants, so many sort of haste creatures, it really adds to that aggression. So we mentioned Lava Dart.
Yeah.
Lava Dart is a card as old as modern I can think of. Well, I'm not sure if it came in MH1, but it was always like a pauper all star.
Oh, it's been reprinted. It's a very old card.
Yeah, very old card.
I think it's from. Oh God, is it from Judgment or something?
Oh, I don't know. But Lava
Yeah,
Dart,
it's from Judgment originally. I don't know when that was, but that was like 90s, right?
Was it? I don't know.
I don't know, but it's a very old card. Yeah, Lava Dart. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so Lava Dart is one of those things that you get. You get increased prowess triggers. It's two spells in one with 2 damage attached to it. So you can then a way of triggering your Corey Steel Cutter, getting that incremental damage from Slick Shot Show Off. This is, as you said, 2 bolts before. Lava Dart, really key card. Really
Yeah,
good card.
yeah, absolutely. It's probably the best instant in the deck.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't think it's and I don't think it's even close. So the instant package of this deck, it's your most flexible it's the most flexible part of the deck because you've got people playing, more in Hull Heat or less mutagenic growths, or people playing, you can do a lot. You got some people that like to play a surgical extraction main.
Mm-hmm.
So your instants are very, very flexible, but your lava darts, lightning bolts are holy, and you shall not touch them because otherwise you're not playing blue red prowess. You're playing a different deck. Lava dart is probably the best. I don't know if it's the best card in the deck, but it's definitely the best instant in the deck. It does everything. Yes, it's only 1 damage on paper, but so often is it just tons and tons and tons of damage. One lava dart can represent 6, 9,
Yeah.
12. Just it can represent all sorts of damage. Your first lava dart is probably just 1 damage and maybe a Surveil, possibly might create a monk token. However, yeah, that second lava dart is free. It's just really, really good. It's one of the free ways of dealing actual damage in this deck, and it's Boros energy and those types of deck just
Mm-hmm.
don't want to ever see it. If you play against Infect, I know that's not a real deck anymore in Modern, but I hope you get to play against Infect so you get to
Yeah.
really enjoy the spoils of Lava Dart. But it's one of the cards that you're really wanting to put into a graveyard with a Surveil as
Mm-hmm.
well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
whenever you see on top of your deck, you're always like, yep, that'll go into the graveyard. I can then cast it for free. Lava Dart comes attached with a prowess trigger, a monk token, a +2/+0. So it's extremely, extremely good because of that second part of it. It's 2 damage for one red mana, really.
I find it really exciting if I ever survey like an Atraxa into the bin or a Flage into the bin, and you're like Lava Dart in the bin, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So, it's one of the ways that you kind of ensure that your critical mass at the end of the game, or at the end of the game, by turn 3, by turn 4, you can really catch people out. You've got all your creatures going, you've got your Chorus Steel Cutter ticking over, it's making monk tokens, etc. You attack, and then your opponent started doing math in their head. You've already done the math because that's what responsible players do. Um, you attack them, all your creatures are sideways, and they go, okay, I'll block here, I'll block here, I'll block here, and then all of a sudden, you start looking towards your graveyard. Your opponent's face turns white. They're, oh my God, I
Oh
forgot about the
no.
lava dart, and then you just go, I will flashback lava dart, and I'm going to do this, trigger everything. 3 more damage, 5 more damage,
Mm.
8 more damage. It's just incredible. And then obviously everything that I say, um, only gets amplified if you have multiples of these other cards as well,
Mm.
right? It's great if you have a DRC and a Chorus Steel Cutter and a Monk Token and maybe a Monastery Swift Spear. But now imagine if you've gone turn 1 DRC, turn 2 Chorus Steel Cutter, turn 3 you've gone Swift Spear and another Swift Spear or something,
Yeah.
and then you go Lava Dart, Flashback Lava Dart. You can already see now how much damage it can generate for 1 mana. It's fantastic.
I mean, I played with this deck and played against this deck, and playing against this deck, like I'll look at I'll be on 17 life and I'm thinking I could be dead. Like
Yes,
even at that high,
absolutely.
like which is essentially at 17 is a really key number, as you said before about your bolts and all that, but also 17 is usually what you end up on when you fetch shock in turn 1 anyway, so you're
Yep.
pretty much halfway there. Lava Dart, really cool. I just want to say something on Lava Dart, like the amount of times, because I've tried this deck, I played this deck, I knew we were having you on, so I thought I'd give it a go, and I think there was a time when I was like, I think I had I don't know, two slick shots out and maybe a Swift Spear. I had top deck a Preordain, and then off the top there was a Lava Dart, and I'm like, oh, this game has gone from I don't know if I can win this to now you're dead.
Yeah, and it's not even close. And it's
Yeah.
not even close, yeah.
Cool. So Bolt is it 4 of Bolt, just 3 damage,
Every single
target you.
time. Yeah, I'm not even going to speak about ball. It's self-explanatory. It does everything, right? It's the most efficient,
Yeah.
one kind of one mana red burn spell in modern. It's stood the test of time. It's from alpha.
Hmm.
It kills creatures, it kills players, it does everything. Yeah, ball, far ball. Let's not even talk about it. You just need to play it.
Yeah. Bolt target you.
Yeah,
So mutagenic growth. Now this is interesting because mutagenic growth is I thought like this is a prowess card through and through. I played Kiln Fiend in Pauper, and this was like this is like that sort of ilk of deck. And I've noticed that people have cutting these. You mentioned before about the expressive iteration / mutagenic growth sort of numbers. Now, before I get your opinion, before I talk to you on this, I want to just say when I see someone cast expressive iteration in this deck, I get really scared because
right.
they're going to draw 2 cards and they're probably going to be able to cast those cards when they cast expressive iteration. Like this deck does not, like you mentioned, like critical mass in this deck. Expressive iteration ensures that critical mass, right?
Yeah.
What is your rationale between the 4 mutagenic growths over and 3 expressive iterations rather than? I think you alluded to it
You don't.
before, but let's
Yeah.
just revisit that.
Yeah, the main kind of idea behind this is because your game one strategy is being the aggressor,
Yeah.
being aggressive and really kind of pushing the envelope. And
Mm-hmm.
with expressive iterations, you're really not going to be casting the full for expressive iterations in game one. You don't really want to, you don't
Yeah.
need to. And if you are, then something's probably not going
Your
too
way.
well.
Yeah.
And the four mutant growths is if we're going to be the aggressor in game one, if we're going to do that, then why not just lean into that? If we need the fourth expressive iteration for those kind of matchups later on, we can just side it in.
Mm.
You only need one iteration, maybe two, to really cement, that win.
Yeah.
The expressive iteration looking for extra cards. Yes, it's fine, it's good. However, it doesn't deal damage. You are spending 2 mana. You've probably only got one more mana, or maybe two, if you're lucky. And yes, it's looking for more cards, but not always are you going to be able to utilize expressivation
Mm-hmm.
to its mass to its biggest potential, like you could in, for example, in Blue Red Murktide at the start of MH1.
Mm-hmm.
Expressivation in that deck, a deck where it wants to kind of sit back, it wants to have counter spells, that's completely different. That's more of a card selection spell, almost like a
Yeah.
stock up. Whereas in this deck, expressive iteration is a way of just getting to that next
Mm-hmm.
stage in the game. You've gone, okay, I've started the game, and then now I'm going to iterate so
Mm-hmm.
that I can continue the next stage of the game and kind of get the next load of spells and set up my next sort of kind of draws and stuff. So leaning into the mutagenic growth package, but it's kind of where I want to be, just because I want to be more aggressive. Also, though, Mutagenic growth, yes, as much as it is a pump spell to kill your opponent, it is also a massive, massive, massive protection
Yeah.
spell. A lot of the times you will be casting it to just to save a creature. One way of beating Izzet Prowess, for everyone that's kind of maybe tuning in to also know how to beat the deck, kill
Mm-hmm.
their creatures.
Yeah.
One of the main ways, or one of the only ways that you're going to be killing your opponents is with creatures. You've got
Yeah.
12
Yeah.
creatures, and you've got Chorus Steel Cutter that makes creatures. The rest of the deck is not going to be killing your creatures. Sorry, you're killing your opponents. You
Mm-hmm.
have 12 points worth of burn with lightning bolts. And then you have another, what, 8 with lava
Yeah.
darts?
Yeah.
Yes, that's 20, but that means also you need to sacrifice 4 mountains.
Yeah.
So I don't, you're just not going to get there with just your burn spells. So you will need to protect your creatures, especially to
Mm-hmm.
show off sometimes. Casting a Mutant Engrowth on a Monastery Swift Spear makes it massive, makes it
Yeah.
5 toughness creature. So it's really, really good. So yeah, Mutant Growth, really, really good card. Another card that looks aggressive on paper, but is almost always played a little bit more cagey. Not you're probably going to be killing your opponents with an attack and then flashing back lava darts
Mm.
more often than you will be doing with just attacking and then
Yeah. Yeah.
Mutant
Yeah.
Growth to kill them.
I actually got a turn 2 kill once with this deck with a slick shot show off because
Oh wow.
I think I got I think what was it? I think they fetched, shocked, did something,
Mm.
and then I had Swift Spear attacked. So I was on the play. Swift Spear attacked. They fetched, shocked, did something like preordain or some they did something. Then I untapped. Corey Steele I had Dragon Range, sorry, not Dragon Range, Slickshot Show Off, and my hand was
Yeah,
like lands and then like 3 mutagenic growths, and
yeah, and
I
that'll
was
do
like, you
it.
know
That'll
what,
do it. Yeah,
you know what,
fantastic.
this is the game, this is the hand I chose to keep. This is I die on this sword, or I kill them, or I die. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
and
respecting solitude, so I just attacked and then slammed 3 mutagenic growths at GG because that was 16, 17 with the Swiss. Well, actually, what would have been?
it will be enough. It will
It's
be
enough. I
enough.
didn't even count. Like I was just like mutagenic growth time 3. Let's go.
Because with a slick shot, each growth is 4 points, right? So
Yeah, so
it's
it's 4,
12.
8,
Yeah,
12,
so it's 13 just for the
13,
slick shot, and then and then the Swiss people will do the rest. Yeah,
13. So that's 17.
but
17, that is.
yeah, there you go.
There you
17,
go.
the magic number.
Magic number.
But mutagenic growth is the kind of mutagenic growth and slick shot just kind of blindly infecting your opponent kind of
Hmm.
strategy
Yeah.
is really popular in the mirror match and against decks like Titan, where you know that they're not going to be kind of interacting you, or you don't have that threat of a solitude or something like that. So those kind of plays or those kind of game plans are usually reserved for the matchups where you are guaranteed to kind of follow it through.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad where you, for example, forget to save a creature because you
Hmm.
think that you might be able to deal them a little bit more damage with mutagenic growth later on down the line. You don't draw a creature, you're stranded with these mutagenic
Yeah.
growths,
Yeah.
then your opponent puts you low down enough where you just can't cast them because you don't have a green source in this deck. Some people have started to entertain the idea of possibly playing a Stomping Ground in the deck because
Is that picky
it's not so
poison for
much the
sideboard
life
as
that
well?
yeah, well, that's just because you have the green and you might as well. But and because this is one of your worst matchups. But one of the things that I will say is that if you are trying this deck, you might want to try to play a Stomping Ground because of Vexing Bauble. Funnily enough, it's a
Ah.
really niche thing, but it's really,
I never
really,
thought
really
of
bad for this deck. Yeah, you might not pick it up straight away, but a Vexing Bauble out of Brood Scale or Titan or something else like Eldrazi
that.
or
Yeah.
Tron or something. A Vexing Bauble out of that deck will stop Plotted Slickshot Show-Offs, will stop Flashback Lava Dart, will
Yeah.
stop Mishra's Bauble, and it will also stop Mutagenic Growth. It will stop
It's
so
quite a
many
chunk.
cards
It's
out of
quite a
your
chunk of the
deck.
deck. It stops.
Massive. It's like 16 cards or something or more. So Vexing Bauble, to get around it, you might want to play a Stomping Ground, so at least you can cast your Mutagenic Growth, because Mutagenic Growth is actually pretty good in those matchups where Vexing Bauble is good, because if they're playing Vexing Bauble, chances are they're probably not playing cards like Unholy
Hmm.
Heat or Solitude. So that's one thing. And because you're playing green, then you might also think about some cyber cards, yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about Violent Urge next. We alluded to before. So Violent Urge is like your Team of Battle Rage halved. So for 1 red
hmm
mana, your target creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike to the end of turn. If it's Delirious, you also get it also gets double strike. Big key difference with
Yeah.
this and Team of Battle Rage is it doesn't get trample.
Correct. Yeah, which is why I mentioned kind of putting a Chorus Still Cut on a
Yeah.
creature to give it trample to make it that battle rage. Yeah. Some decks, you'll see they play little bit more Violent Urges. They might play 3. I just like the flexibility of being able to have that one Unholy Heat in the deck somewhere,
Oh, and
just
Unholy
to
as
be
well.
sure that
Yeah.
I can deal with something big or even something small early on. But yeah, Violent Urge, super good card. It's the card that will steal wins a lot. It will surprise your opponents
Hmm.
and it will surprise you probably as well. Lava Dart and Violent Urge will be those 2 cards that will be very, very surprising, to how much they can deal. A Dragon Rage Channeler, if it's Delirious, will deal 8 with a Violent Urge. It is a massive,
Yeah. Yeah.
massive, massive swing. Dragon Rage Channeler, you've only paid 1 mana for it. You've made it Delirious. You attack your Violent Urge. It gives it +1, makes it 4/3 with double strike. That's 8 damage with a Mutagenic Growth. That is
The +1 is
that
massive as
is
well. Like the +1 could be
yeah, it
massive.
is massive.
Like
Yeah,
it's an extra
it really
prowess
is. Yes.
trigger essentially. Which
Yeah.
if it's
So
getting
so
double
with
strike,
with
it's another 4. It can be an extra. Well, with the prowess trigger, another 4 damage off itself.
That's it. That's it. So Violent Urge, it doesn't need a lot to do a lot. So you only need to be delirious. You don't even always have to keep it in your hand, kind of, in your head. You might be thinking, I'm not going to cast it unless I'm delirious. No, that's not true. The +1/+0 and the prowess trigger or a slickshot show off trigger will sometimes just be enough. It will feel like a lava dart almost.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really really good. This is a card that's not often used on defense, just because it's just not.
Oh, because the first strike.
Yeah, some people might think that, oh, I'm going to use it as a first strike kind of combat trick. It's very rare that you might do that. Usually, you want to be kind of using your mana, or making sure that the mana that you have open is probably for a removal spell, or
Mm-hmm.
for some. As I said before, you want to be playing all your cards with a purpose. All your cards want to be playing consciously. So it's not often used as a combat trick. It's very often also surveilled into the bin. But when it is relevant, it's probably when you the game.
Cool. You mentioned the one on Holy Heat. Really good. You see. What's that? What card? I'm so you've noticed me on the podcast. I can think of a card name, but I can think of a card, but I can't think. Quantum Riddler, really good against Quantum Riddler. Unholy Heat is like
Yeah,
a fatal push for Quantum Riddler. Do you
yeah.
like the one off main board?
Yeah, just one main. Sometimes you'll see it and you'll be happy about it. Sometimes you'll draw it and it'll just, instead of pointing a bolt at a Guide of Souls, you'll point in a Holy Heat at it. If we're talking about Guide of Souls decks, if you're playing against those, it can kill a Flage. Flage
Mm,
is one of the ways that will beat you. However, it is not the be all end all. You can dig for it sometimes. You can look for it. You can surveil it. It's just there just because it's so extremely flexible. It's just a good card to have. And also, one of the ways that I managed to fit four Unholy Heats into the deck is by having just that one main. If I'm being very honest with you, I don't really know if you told me right now that I couldn't play an Unholy Heat main, I'm not really sure what else I would play main.
maybe the fourth expressive iteration, or
Possibly four expressive, four mutant growth. I'm not sure what I'd like to draw more of. I'm not sure. So you'll see that people might not be playing the one on Holy Heat Mate. They might be playing something else, and that's completely fine.
mm,
I think this is the only kind of one big flex slot in the deck. It's your.
okay,
Do you want to be playing four expressive iteration, three mutant growth? Do you want to be playing one on Holy Heat? Do you want to play three violent urges? Those are your kind of two flex slots. I'd say that this one and the mutant growth versus expressive iteration. Those are kind of your two ways of kind of two cards or two slots where you can maybe tune it a little bit more to
yeah,
your local meta. Maybe if your local meta is a little bit more grindy, slower, loads of Jeskai Blink, loads of Esper Blink, those kind of decks, maybe you want to be playing the fourth expressive iteration
yeah,
because Mutant Growth obviously very, very susceptible just to get solituded. If you do have that one turn where you're like, oh well, I'm now going to swing, and then if I cast this Mutant Growth, I do win the game, cast it, it gets solituded, you just feel bad. So maybe if you do want to kind of strip back one and go for the fourth iteration
yeah.
main, if your local meta is a little bit different.
Cool. So that's sort of the main deck. The sideboard then. Sorry, wrong. The lands we'll talk about because you did mention before about the one of Thundering Fall. So I would like to talk about that a bit because how you play it differently in this deck as you would, and then obviously you've got the two
Yeah.
cantrips in terms of in the form of fiery islet as well. The rest of it
Yes. Do
is three steam vents. The rest of are red fetch lands, three mountains. I've seen some lists on two. But yeah, let's talk about that land base then.
Yeah, super stripped back land base. Just it's just so that it just performs how it needs to do. So loads of fetches. You want to be always making sure that you've got the right mana available. Fetches also they're just really really good. If you don't have a DRC, you can look at top card of your library, fetch it away, get a different card out. It's fine. So you got loads of fetches. You've got the two fiery islets. Another point of contention. You might see some lists that play less or none. I really like the two.
Hmm.
Yes, they do daily damage, but if you play the deck, eventually you'll be able to see kind of how you play with Fiery Islet. You actually might see yourself sacking it a lot more often,
Yeah.
or maybe you'll be playing in. Maybe you'll learn to kind of realize that actually taking this 1 point of damage here isn't necessary because
Hmm.
I'm playing against maybe the mirror or something like that. So the two fairy arts are just really, really good there. Sometimes, as I said before, you don't have a ways of getting rid of cards in your hand, so you'll just play the lands. Maybe you'll sack one or two. The three mountains, absolutely necessary. You can play two, yeah, of course you can, but the three mountains I found are really, really good because It's one of the ways that in the mirror you can make sure that you have more life than your opponent.
Yeah.
You still get to flash back your lava darts. You still get to do, loads, pretty much everything that you want to be doing. A
Hmm.
lot of lists are now also starting to play Path to Exile as their kind of
Yeah, I've
sideboard
noticed that actually.
one mana removal spell. So good way of getting value from that. There's not really much to say about it. Thundering Falls is the biggest kind of talking point, I guess. It's I think it's absolutely necessary. It's like drawing you a card.
Yeah.
Yes, it enters tapped. If you draw it, bad beat. However, being able to fetch for it at the end of your opponent's turn, or just basically not in your turn, just to look at that extra card, that extra surveil for free. It's like drawing a card, and again, if you put a lava dart in the bin, it's just fantastic.
Mm.
So, yeah, there's not much to
Abel's
say about
Abel's
the mana
Nerium.
base.
I think the key thing you said before is that it's not something, because traditionally a lot of decks, especially 2-3 color decks, kind of want to get their Surveil land turn one. Like, we
Oh, right.
do you know what I mean? We were both frog gamers. Like, the ideal turn one is, play a land, pass, end step, fetch, surveil, untap,
Yeah,
set up.
yeah,
Where
yeah,
this
yeah.
this
You're
this
right.
I
Yeah.
guess this deck is especially game one. It's not a heuristic you want to be following, right?
No, and it's funny because you're almost flirting with the possibility of drawing the Thundering Falls, and when you do draw it, you're not happy, but you want it to be in the deck so you can always fetch for it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but with turn one, you're playing a threat. Turn two, you want to be kind of doing something where you're either setting up your next turn or maybe presenting another threat or maybe playing a Squire Steel Cutter, kind of
Hmm.
developing that snowball. And only later on down in the game where you have an opportunity to pass to your
Hmm.
opponent and once they pass back, you've got that uncracked fetch land. Only then do you want to be getting the Thundering Falls.
Hmm.
But it's really, really funny because, yeah, you don't want to draw it. You want it to be in your deck,
Yeah,
and you only want to be getting it at the time that you want to get it,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
why you only play one. But it is very, very, very good, and I wouldn't play more, but I also wouldn't play zero.
I was just about to say,
And
I
the
was going to
only
say that when you
other
play two, but no, I guess not.
no, no, and the only other card or the only kind of other land that obviously like I mentioned before is possibly the stomping
Stomping
ground
ground.
to have access to green. You don't need blue. This deck is basically a red deck. If you ever get Blood Moons, you just laugh at your opponent and continue to play the game. So yeah, this deck does not need blue to win the game. Obviously, it helps a lot. But yeah.
Cool. So we're going to talk about the sideboard now. So how you've graciously put together a sideboard guide for us, and that'll be attached in the show notes. So when we look at the sideboard now, it's not be unless it comes up with a conversation. It won't be in this matchup. We bring this in this matchup. We bring that. It's not going to be like that. I want to know why included these cards. Similarly, how we've done it with the deck tech just then. Why
Yeah.
the numbers? Because there's a few interesting numbers here that I would like to expand on, and then obviously why the card choices. So obviously you're playing a blue deck. You need to have some amount of copies of consigned to memories. Usually in the modern format, you look at a blue deck. It always starts with 4 consigned to memories, and then 11 other cards. You've chose 3.
Yeah.
Why only 3?
Yeah, so Consigned to Memory was a far off for the longest time, but the more I played with it, the more I realized that actually I don't need the 4 copies. You only need 1 or 2 in the games or in the matches that you draw it. You don't really want to be drawing 4 unless you're playing against Tron.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the 3 Consigned to Memory were there or are there for obviously anything colorless, anything with a triggered ability, yes, but the 4th consign is usually something like an Into the Floodmaw.
Mm-hmm.
Now the reason for that is I'm playing Into the Floodmaw in this sideboard, and it usually gets sideboarded in a long consign to memory.
Right. Okay.
Into the Floodmaw is one of the ways that you can reliably deal with cards like Trinisphere,
Mm-hmm.
or others. If something slips by, Into the Floodmaw usually can just save you. So you think of cards like Sire of 7 deaths. There's actually no way for you to remove a Sire of 7 deaths if you haven't countered it. And if they play a Cavern of Souls,
Yeah.
that's it, lights out. So the Into the Floodmaw is kind of is a complement to the 3 Consigns to Memory. So the
Hmm.
3 Consigns to Memory, you side them in obviously against things like Titan, against Zoo, against anything colorless, yeah. And then and then what I usually do is I think, is this a match where I also want Into the Floodmaw? You know, it's one of the ways that you can also think about if you're siding in consign to memory for Saga decks. Obviously, you can consign the Saga triggers so they can't make
Hmm.
tokens or they can't fetch. Are you also thinking about Into the Floodmaw alongside the consign because you want to be bouncing, for example, a Vexing Bauble or a or anything else? So
Hmm.
that's why it's 3 consigns to memory. Consigns to memory, yeah, awesome card, very good card. You know, great against things like Titan, yeah. Zeus, also because you want to be countering the Scion, but also you might find yourself thinking about maybe, do I put a consign in against Storm, hitting the amulet, maybe the storm triggers. So usually, you know, yeah, it can sound very flexible card, but I think a lot of people do just overboard it, and
Yeah.
they think because it is so good and it's so efficient in what it does, you know, 4 in, 4 out. But I challenge that, and I think that you don't need 4, especially in a deck like Prowess, where you're not sitting back and you're not being reactive, you're being proactive, and you also need to think about how you can use consign to your advantage. You don't want to be drawing 4 consigns in a game. With 3, you will draw at least one every single game. You might draw 2. With 4, you're pretty much guaranteed to draw 2 in those longer post board games.
Cool. I just want to mention about consign to memory as well, because if you look at consign to memory, really obvious against like when Tron was everywhere in modern. I do think Tron is coming back. I see a lot of Tron on Magic Online at the moment. But consign to memory is like an anti-Tron card, right? Consign to memory has a lot of text against a lot of other decks, like you mentioned, blink decks, triggered abilities, all that sort of stuff. But consign to memory isn't necessarily a card you'd put in your sideboard for those decks. You put 4 in because of Tron, essentially. So if you're seeing less Tron decks, for example, then why are you playing 4 consign to memory? It's like 3 should be enough, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a utility card, and I like the fact that you've sort of put Into the Floodmaw in the same ilk. Like I'm doing consign to memory to counter an awkward permanent, because the way this deck plays, it's very instant speed. It's very there and then. Like I play my hand and try and kill you in my turn. Like a lock piece is massively important. So if that lock piece gets like, I don't know, what's the high noon or something gets played, like
Mhm.
nice consign to memory. You know what I mean? Or if I know Trinisphere gets
If they
played, and
split, yeah, I mean,
so
if they
I like
slip,
that split.
yeah, if they slip through, for example, an ensnaring bridge, it's really hard to beat. If they slip through other cards, it's really hard to beat. And Contact Memory into the Floodmore, if you play both of those, it can just make sure that whatever they throw at you, you can deal or
Hmm.
think about how to deal with them. A big one is Chalice of the Void. Some
Yeah.
decks might play Chalice of the Void against you on 1. If they play it on 0, it doesn't do anything. If they play on 2, you're still just beating them. On 1, it is really punishing. Consigned memory can counter the chalice trigger.
Hmm.
Consigned memory is fantastic against Belcher, for example, obviously you can consign a Belcher, but also think about consigning the Lotus
Trigger.
Bloom.
Yeah.
So Lotus Bloom, when they suspend it, when it wants to be cast or when it comes off of suspend, there's 2 triggers.
Yeah.
There's one where the last counter is removed. And then, sorry, there's one where the
Yeah.
last counter
That's
is
removed.
removed, and then it wants to be cast. If you counter that trigger where it wants to be cast, it will stay in exile,
Yeah.
rather than countering the Lotus Bloom when it's already on the stack. And if you counter that, it will go into the graveyard. Temesha can get it back, and then they can win that way. If you counter the trigger so that it will never be cast and it stays in exile, then that
Hmm.
also kind of prevents the Temesha lines in the future. So Consign is super flexible, and you're not always sideboarding in 3 either. Against some decks, maybe against a Solitude deck, You want to have one, maybe you want to have two. You might catch a solitude trigger, but I wouldn't just sideboard it in blindly
Hmm.
just because you think that it lines up with something that they have.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive pitfall, and I would think about how to sideboard more conservatively rather than just sideboarding in 9 or 10 cards because the deck needs to still kind of function in its
Yeah.
primary game plan.
Cool. We talked about expressive iteration. I'm happy. I'm happy you got the fourth in the sideboard for more grindy games where you need like more card advantage. High removal games,
Yeah,
etc.
so just quickly on
Go on
expressive
then.
iteration, a lot of people play more threats in the sideboard. As you can
Hmm.
see, I don't have any more threats in the sideboard. I think
Yeah.
that the threat package in the main deck is good enough. I think Chorus Steel Cutter is the way that you want to be grindier. Uh, you might see sideboards playing cards such as Murktide Regent.
Hmm.
I think Murktide Regent isn't that good of a card, just because if you play it early. It will be small, it will be unholy heatable, and it will take you off delirium. And if you play it late, it's probably too late anyway.
Hmm.
And 8/8 later on down the line isn't doing enough. If it had haste or if it had flash, then yeah, sure. But it doesn't have anything, any of those. And just playing a big dummy later on in the game it's just not good enough. Early on, do you want to be kind of delving away lava darts or taking yourself with delirium or
Mm.
just making a 5/5? It's not good enough, in my opinion. You might see Eddie Crab. I've not tested that yet, so that's another thing that I might entertain. And yeah, so expressive iteration. If I want to be grindier, if I want to take the game a little bit slower, that is the card that I'll put in to kind of extend that longevity of the main game plan. One thing about sideboarding, I know that there is a sideboarding guide, but just as a rule of thumb, a good way of to think about the deck is in game two and game three. If you're playing against a deck that's playing Solitude or Fatal Push or just point and click
Hmm.
removal, a really easy way of starting to think about sideboarding with the deck is taking out 4 Mutagenic Growths and 2 Violent Urges
Yeah.
and thinking about maybe there's five and keeping like 1 Mutagenic Growth in or 1 Violent Urge
Hmm.
in, and maybe there's 5 or 6 cards that you want to be putting in because that way what you're doing is you are slowing the deck massively. You're taking out a lot of the explosiveness of the deck out, but you are then kind of shifting into a deck that plays 1 turn slower, but is a little bit more decisive in what it does. So
Mm.
you might be putting in more unholy heats or more counter spells. So actually, you might not
And
play Chorus Looker on turn two
you're not too
because you
fun
might play a
yourself either.
threat and keep. What's that?
You're
Sorry.
not too fun yourself either because if you decide to go
Yeah,
slick shot, mutagenic growth or violent urge, and then they
yeah,
fatal push it, you're like
yeah.
you're
So
too
that,
fun.
that that's just like one of the ways that you can start thinking about how to sideboard with the deck. Yeah, just be decisive. Yeah,
Cool. Two meltdowns. How does this? How
yeah.
like
Meltdown.
yeah? So I guess affinity is on the rise. Um.
Yeah, Meltdown. Yeah, for Affinity, for Stagger Construct tokens, fantastic again. The Brood Scale, it cleans up a lot. Meltdown is also so. Sometimes you might want it in against Amulet.
Mhm.
Amulet is probably your worst matchup,
Really
and it's yes, definitely. Amulet are a turn faster than you. They are yeah, they're just faster.
interesting.
They will interact with you. They'll have dismembers. They'll have besieges. They will have all sorts of stuff. They will have vexing baubles. Yeah, amulet is your hardest matchup. So meltdown might be a thing that you might consider. One of the things that I want to point out against affinity, don't rely on meltdown too much, because even if your opponent goes turn one Pinnacle Emissary, makes tons of guys, and even if they go Kappa Cannoneer, you can still beat them without a meltdown because one of the ways that you have to think about it is the tokens that the Pinnacle Emissary makes are flyers that can only block flyers. You can just kill them on the ground.
Mm.
They have no ground game. So Swift Spear, Core Steel Cutter, a Dragon Rush channel that's not delirious. You attack, play a spell, make it delirious after blockers have already been declared. You can just kill them on the ground. So
Mhm.
earlier on when I started playing the deck and I played against Affinity, I would mulligan aggressively to Meltdown, and then I learned that actually it's not that necessary, and sometimes it might not even do that much because if you're playing against the munitions version of the deck, a Meltdown is actually really bad then because you're going to blow up the munitions and you're going to kill
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a spicy one they've started been playing. Cool. So one of Mystical Dispute.
One Mystical Dispute, one Spell Pierce, and one Spell Snare. I used to play 2 Mystical Dispute, 1 Spell Snare. I've gone into Spell Pierce just because I'm seeing less of the blue decks. There are some decks that I want to have Spell Piercing against. This is another kind of flex slot. I mean, the entire sideboard is very
Mm.
flexible, but these three I would definitely encourage to play around with and kind of play or change to suit your styles. Mystical Dispute, Spell Pierce, Spell Snare. Feel free to kind of experiment with these. Spell Snare, I would rank the highest out of these three, just because Spell Snare has applications against your aggressive decks as well as your slower decks. So Spell Snare, fantastic against pretty much all of the archetypes. It will counter Neoform
Hmm.
as well as Ajani, as well as Counterspell or Frog or Goryo's Vengeance.
Hmm.
It does so much for so little. It's fantastic. You will find some lists to play more because it is just that good. Spell Pierce, it's a classic. But I think that this is the easiest one to kind of sideboard it incorrectly.
Hmm.
I've seen some players sideboard Spell Piercing against Boros because they want to counter a High Noon, or they want to counter a Celestial Purge, or they want to counter a Gun Bombardment.
Hmm.
But actually, that's not where you want to be. But if you think about it the other way, if you flip this on its head and you think about instead of trying to answer their spells in this way, I can side in more removal spells and I can just kill the creatures. I can make
Hmm.
sure that the Flage never comes in or is extracted or I heat it. So Spell Pierce is really an easy card to get wrong. So I'd be careful about that one.
Hmm.
And it's also the card that falls off in terms of value the quickest.
Yeah, yeah. Because
You side it in against something like a slower control deck. You get to turn 5 or 6. There
there's
is just
nothing
no
there.
equity in Spell Pierce. And
Yeah.
again, remember the golden rule: you cannot discard cards in your hand. So once it's there, it's there. So Spell Pierce, it's a weird one. It's a strange one. So that's why I say, mess about with these numbers. Mystical Dispute is one that I would encourage to kind of maybe look at playing two of
Hmm.
if you do get the chance to play against loads of blue decks, because it's just incredible. It's really good against Belcher. It's really good against your frog matchups. A lot of players don't expect Prowess to play something like this post board. They just forget about it.
Yeah.
They play into it. They will, and also in a pinch. In 2% of your games, you might just cast it for 3 mana to counter a white spell or a black
Yeah,
spell.
yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. So your graveyard hate of choice is 2 surgical extractions.
Yeah. So you can play the Talmud Crypt, or you can play something like a Soulgang Lantern. However, I've just found surgical extraction to be the most efficient. It's in the name. It's surgical. You want to be kind of very, very meticulous and very deliberate of what
Hmm.
you're doing at what point. Surgical extraction is also a really good way of distracting your opponent from what you're doing. Because sometimes you might want to surgically extract a Guide of Soul instead of a Flage, just because you saw one with a Mishra's Bauble,
Hmm.
and because you know that if you, for example, um, how can I put it? One of the ways that you
It's a
can really
combat
get
trick. It
caught
could be.
out
It could be a
is
combat trick, can't it, as well?
you can, yeah, you can. But one of the ways that you can get really caught out, it's a timing thing as well that I've noticed with surgical extraction and some other cards as well. But surgical extraction, one of the ways that you can get really caught out by decks like Blink and Boros is if they have a Fable of the Mirror Breaker
Hmm.
and it's going to tick up to 2.
Yes.
There is no timing window for you to interact between them discarding a Flage and escaping with haste.
Yeah.
So sometimes you might just use surgical extraction as such a corner case scenario to take them off the number of cards that they have in their graveyard, so that then if they do draw and discard 2, they can't escape Flage, for example. There's so many kind of scenarios where surgical extraction really really shines. And yes, it's another 3 mana or yeah, 3 mana or no mana spell that can just be a combat trick sometimes. Yeah, another delirium kind of looker. Yeah, really, really good card. Usually
It can hit
you
prowess as
would
well
be looking,
for 0.
and yeah, prowess, yeah. Usually you'd be looking at kind of if you're siding it in, yeah, the main cards that you're looking to take out in its place are probably something like a Mutagen Growth for a different 0 mana
Hmm.
card. Don't be scared to take out a Bauble or two every now and again.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that surgical extraction is fantastic. It's very, very flexible. Some lists are even playing it main just because of how flexible it is. So yeah.
Main spicy. Get rid of that game one solitude, fatal push,
Yeah,
etc.
right.
And
Yeah, I
then
mean, yeah, you can use surgical extraction for something like that. Yeah, definitely.
finish it off with your rest of your unholy heats. So you got 4 in the deck, 1 main, 3 side.
Yeah, absolutely. Four and Holy Heat, with how easily or how quickly this deck can achieve Delirium, Unholy Heat is just fantastic.
Mm.
Not so much against, just because it deals 6. Don't think that you want to sideboard it in against Amulet to deal 6 to Titans. It's probably not going to work because they're going to bog you, or they're going to
Yeah, yeah.
make a copy of it or something. So don't think that just because it says 6, it's for Titan. No, no, not exactly. Unholy Heat
Quantum
is a
Riddler.
deck that,
Quantum Riddler hits,
yeah,
just
that's
kills that.
it. Unholy Heat is a card now that kills Quantum Riddler, that kills Frog.
Yeah.
If you side in on Unholy Heat and point it at Frog early enough, they either have to discard their entire hand and then you can just lava dart it out of your bin, or
Hmm.
or they're going to have to let that Frog go. Frog used to be a really big problem for this deck. One of the ways that you used to beat Prowess is you used to just make big threats against it, and they
Hmm.
couldn't get through him because you've played a Frog and a Murktide Regent,
Hmm.
and both are big. They just don't have a way of pushing through. Nowadays, with cards like Chorus Steelcutter, in addition to dealing loads of damage
Hmm.
in one go with cards like Unholy Heat, you can get there. And Unholy Heat just fantastic against any kind of creature decks. You Boros energies. So yeah, you Boros energies, those kind of decks. You mirror matchups.
Hmm.
Maybe you're playing against a blue-white energy deck. Yeah, Unholy Heat, catch all, kills everything. It's fantastic. You're not always sideboarding in all three, but it's really, really good to have, and it's one
Kills
of the more flexible cards.
kills planeswalkers too. Pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't remember last time I played against a Planeswalker. Um, what did I play? Maybe it's Teferi. I mean, Teferi doesn't really do much
Teferi,
in
yeah.
this deck. They
I've
they,
seen,
they play
I've
it, take it
seen,
down, you lava
I
dart
think
it.
planeswalkers wise, it's either Teferi. I've seen a couple of Ashok splashed around.
Yeah, you're not gonna have an Ashok against you,
Kaitos,
but
Kaito, but I don't suppose you'll
yeah,
see.
I guess I can kill a Kaito. I mean, if there's a Kaito coming at you, then you've got bigger problems to deal with. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I don't.
um,
I
one
mean,
of the one of the, one
I
of the
would
things as well.
go on.
One of the things as well is you can really bait Boros energy players a lot. So don't think that you just don't think that you have to kill the Ajani. A lot of the ways that you deal with Ajani sometimes is you let the Ajani flip. For example, you flip it in your own turn, or you flip it at the end of their turn, and then in your turn, you kill it in the air with a DRC because
Mm.
it flips into a 3 toughness, and then you can save that unholy for later threats. That's a really, really big thing that I've noticed by playing this deck is try to bait that flip with the
Yeah.
Ajani. So kill the cat early, make the Ajani flip. It's only got 3 toughness. You can bolt it, or you can attack it with a DRC.
Hmm.
Save that unholy heat for something more important, like a Flage or something else.
Cool. So that is the deck. That was quite a good actually breakdown of the deck. I quite enjoyed that. Um,
Thank you.
so before I do want to talk about good matchups, bad match. You alluded to a few then, Titan, Boris Energy, etc. You alluded to a few, but before we want to talk about that, what I want, in your own words, why should someone pick this deck up for this for modern right now?
Um, It's a real head scratcher, but it's very, very rewarding. It's a deck that looks to be very, very simple, stage one, kind of the floor level, it does look really simple, but there's just so much to learn with the deck.
Mhm.
Not so much with how you play things, but how you start to think and how you approach the game. It's really, really good to kind of stretch those muscles. And if you enjoy these types of deck, and even the people that enjoy maybe the slower versions, if you enjoy decks like Frog, if you enjoy decks like Boros Energy, if you enjoy those types of decks, then I would definitely think about giving Prowess a go because it can play and you will have to play sometimes those kind of slower, cagier matchups where you feel like you're playing like a blue-red Delver deck from Legacy or something.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
or maybe you get to play those really, really quick matches where the game's just done in 3 turns, and it's really, really fun, and it really kind of stretches your thinking about how you approach games and how you approach the game. Yeah.
Cool. So in an ideal world, you've got an 8-round tournament. Let's say you've got an RC or something. What what decks do you want to see? What is your ideal matchups? Like, what's a like
I want to
the good
see
matchup?
Belcher for 8 rounds.
Belcher for 8 rounds.
Belcher. I want to see Belcher 8 times in a row, and then in the top eight, I want to see Belcher 3 more times. Yeah, I mean, so your really good matchups are obviously your decks like Belcher. Belcher just it can't keep up.
Mm.
So Belcher will have cards where it has to expend 2 cards, or it has to maybe bolt itself with a land, or it just plays like a
Yeah,
1/2
land.
Thundertrap
The
trainer or
land base is
something.
really painful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really punishing, and if they want to play faster, they're taking more damage, and if they want to play slower, then you are dealing them more damage. So it's just either way, it's really bad for them. There are ways that Belcher can kill you and can well, there's one way that Belcher can kill you, but obviously there are ways that Belcher can beat you. If you have a hand that doesn't quite get there, or it's quite questionable, maybe your DLC never comes online.
Hmm.
There are ways that the Belcher can get there, but it's very, very far and few between. So that's one of your best matchups. Another matchup that I personally like to see is Boros. I've
Okay.
gotten to the point now where I enjoy playing Boros or against Boros. One of some there's loads of practice to have against Boros because they can also play from different angles. You need to be very, very careful of Ocelot Pride making tokens. You need to be
Hmm.
very careful of bombardment and other cards. Voice of Victory is actually a really good card against you. So there's loads of different avenues. God of Souls gains loads of life. Obviously, Flage of Arena is one of the main ways that you will lose time and time again because it's such a big life swing.
Yeah.
It might kill a creature or 2 creatures. It'll gain them so much life. So, yeah, definitely something to watch out for. But I personally really enjoy the Boros matchups. They're close, but usually, in my opinion, favored. Um, Post border gets a little bit harder. It depends what they have.
Hmm.
Another thing that I want to see, Esper Blink. It might seem counterintuitive
Yeah.
because on paper they look really good against you, but actually, as long as you draw a Chorus Steel Cutter, you are fine. You
Yeah.
are fine. Chorus Steel Cutter is an incredible card in the matchup. The only way that can really deal with it maybe is Prismatic Ending if they have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they play it, do they play them?
Not
Maybe
sure.
Witching Channel. Witching Channel's four
Celestial
mana, right?
Purge. Celestial Purge. I've seen quite a bit.
I don't think they play it main, so
No,
so,
not
so
main.
Esper
No.
Blink is also no Esper Blink is also a great matchup to play against. You play like 1 or 2 creatures or 1 creature, and then you just get in. One of the cards to watch out for in that matchup is Overlord. Overlord can do a lot, so be careful of the failure. Be very, very aware of that 2 mana that they just passed with. That can be a
Yeah.
failure that can flip an Overlord, and then it gets hard. But without that, it's a really fun matchup because yes, they have Solitude, but the Chorus Steel Cutter really gets there. It,
Mm.
re it really shines. If you wanna experience why Chorus Steel Cutter is that good, play some matches against Esper Blink. What else? Let's have a look at the modern meta game,
Go on
and
then.
maybe I can get some more inspiration about what I want to be playing against. So, looking at modern meta game as of today, Boros Energy, I've already spoken about. Things that I want to be playing against. Most decks you're gonna have some kind of game against just because you're going to be able to steal games.
I mean,
You're going to be
you're really proactive, right? And I've always said like
yeah.
in an open meta like modern is, and you're not sure what to bring something proactive that has a solid game plan and can kill people
Mhm.
dead, because then you take that into an open meta and let them like let them decide. Oh, sorry, give the question to them to answer is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Absolutely. And if they're playing their reactive deck that they've suited all of these cards to beat the meta that they're predicting, they might be predicting wrong. They might not be, they might not be as ready for you as they'd like to be, or they draw the wrong half of the deck or whatever, and you just get it dead. So then there are some matchups that you're 50-50 about, and they can go either way, and you have to be very, very careful, or
Mm.
you have to kind of really know that, okay, this is a game where I will go and play my slick shot and I will kill you as fast as possible because I
Hmm.
know that you can't interact, or I know that they will get there. Or it's one of those matchups where you hang back and you kind of chill a little bit and you kind of extract value out of your cards and out of your opponent
Hmm.
playing kind of 1 for 2s. Matchups such as Affinity, such as Jeskai Blink, Eldrazi Tron. Those matchups are really kind of it's either here or there.
Yeah.
As I mentioned with Affinity, they can make loads of guys, but they're all in the air. They can only block things in the air. You can like kill them on the ground.
Hmm.
If they go loads of guys, cap a cannoneer. If they're all tapped, you go slick shot yourself, kill them.
Yeah.
There's loads of ways of kind of tackling those matchups. So you kind of it's kind of you don't just have good and bad matchups. You also have the ones in the middle,
Yeah.
and you just have to be aware that sometimes you might not get there, or you might draw the wrong
Hmm.
half the deck at the wrong time, and it will happen. And that's
Yeah.
why the deck is 48% win rate and not 52% win rate because it depends where those matchups lie. And then your bad matchups are Titan, and that's
I
really
would have thought
the
I'd thought your gaming's Titan. Like I guess with that inexperience in the matchup, playing this deck against Titan, I would have thought, oh, Titan's a bit dirty. Like yeah, they can be really fast, but you just
Yeah,
kill them
you
before
you
that.
might you might get there. You might get there with a turn one something, turn two suspend, slick shot, turn three kind of try to kill him. You might get there. But if if they've gone grazer or double grazer, all of a
Yeah,
sudden you have to
yeah,
get rid of that grazer now, and I've got to spend a mana for that grazer. So if you go turn one, if you're on the play and you go turn one threat and they go turn one grazer, your turn two
you've fogged
is
you, haven't
slick
you?
shot.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then if you pass and they go another grazer, and it's really hard because all of a sudden now that bot that you've got in your hand isn't dealing three to them and giving slingshot two. It's killing a grazer and giving slingshot two. Now you don't have lethal, and
yeah.
they just probably just kill you on the way back. So it's really really hard. It's
Hmm.
really hard. Another one that can be really hard is Neobrand.
Right. Okay.
Neobrand is a race. It's a real race. And one of the pitfalls that I see others fall into, and I fell into as well a couple of times, is overboarding
Hmm.
in games two and games three. They're very aware that you have counter spells and you have consigned for their goal to trigger, etc. So what they might do is they might try to play a game where they Eldritch Evolution
Hmm.
or Neoform into something like a Gristlebrand
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
Traxer. So you have to be very, very careful of what you're doing there because you can't really just tap out and just try to kill them as
Hmm.
soon as possible because they have also some form of interaction sometimes.
Yeah.
They have pact negation, that sort of stuff. So it's a really, really strange matchup. Spell snare fantastic in that matchup,
Hmm.
spell pierce fantastic in that matchup, mystical dispute. But again, don't overboard.
Hmm.
So it's a hard one. And then the one that's really easy to kind of understand why it's bad is Zoo.
Zoo.
The stats that they have, yeah, the stats that they have with Scion are nigh unbeatable.
Yeah.
But it's still possible. It's still possible. This is one of the ways in which, or this is one of the matchups in which making your guys bigger than 4/4
Hmm.
can really save you. If you attack and they block with a Scion, the Scion's only a 4/4. You can make that creature bigger than a 4/4. The
Yeah.
Scion doesn't have Death Touch; it only has First Strike,
Hmm.
etc. So that Monastery's Frisbee having that one extra point of toughness. If you attack with it and they block with a Scion, you
Yeah.
mutate Griff. It's a 4/5. That you can kill the Scion, not
Hmm.
just it does have first strike, but that's one of the ways that you can really deal with it. And then into the Floodmaw, if you bounce a ley line, it can really screw up a lot of their plays, a lot of their
Yeah.
kind of a lot of their game plan. So Surgical Extraction, fantastic against Flage because they're a deck that really easily gets Flage out and hastes it with Arena.
Hmm.
Unholy Heat kills Carvus. Consign to Memory counters the Scion. So it's one of the matchups where you might pass into their turn two with mana up just because you want to consign that Scion.
Hmm.
And also consign shines in that matchup because of Leyline Binding.
Yeah.
That's a really,
Yeah.
really big
Trigger
card that
that.
people forget about.
The premier removal
Yeah,
spell counters that.
yeah. So yeah, and then the rest of the matchups, things like Yorgmoth, Goro's Vengeance, go into that matchup comfortably and be the aggressor, be kind of the one that gets the foothold on the game first. Goro's
I thought you were
Vengeance
going to do a
can
Heisenberg then and go like, I'll be the one that knocks. Like,
yeah, correct. Like, what's my name? You're goddamn right. But yeah, so it's a deck that can really hold its own. It's really explosive at times. It can slow down now because of Chorus Steel Cutter. It
yeah.
has game against the entire meta game. You can beat all of the decks that I just mentioned, even though that some of them might be bad matchups. And your opponents will be frustrated at you, but that's fine. And that is the deck.
Very good. That was quite an enthusiastic deck tech. I quite enjoyed that. It was a bit of a ride.
Thanks.
Cool.
Well, that's the kind of person you'll become when playing prowess, because every single game might be a palm sweater, because I get sweaty palms when I play as deck sometimes, because you know what, sometimes you might just put it all on black or all on red if it's a show off, and you go, if they have it, they have it. Don't do it all the time, and don't chalk up your losses just because you went,
Yeah,
oh well, they had it. Don't play like that. Don't play into those situations. But sometimes, they might have that one card in hand or those two cards in hand, and you've got and you know that you're losing momentum, you
yeah,
know that you're running out of steam, and you go, it's now or never, because I saw a Mishra's Bauble on top of their deck, they have a Wrath of the Skies. I have nothing coming, I have to do it. Well, let's do it and let's see
yeah,
what happens. And sometimes you get there, and it's fantastic. It's great. It's a really fun deck.
yeah. Sometimes the decision's just forced for you, and you're just like, you know what, let's go.
Yeah.
Like a typical red player or red.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
that's the red element of this deck.
It's the red element of this deck. The whole gamble.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you had that with Frog, though, right? Sometimes
Yeah,
you discarded your entire hand to Frog, and you just attack with Frog and Sing,
and
and,
they
you,
get
and you,
celestial
it's,
purge. And you're
it's a
like,
similar
no.
approach. Yeah.
Cool. Incredible. One thing I was going to say, what I didn't written down and I've scribbled out. I would say this is quite a high skill deck, so rewarding high skill deck. It really rewards type play. Is a deck on the face, looks really easy, and make a big creature, kill them dead. However, there's loads of intricacies to this deck, and another pull to this deck is it's one of the cheapest in Modern right now. It's a great intro deck in terms of easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah.
It's a deck that most people got probably built up anyway, that they just lend out because they don't want to. They don't think it's as good as it actually is until they actually see a master playing it. Because this deck is a tournament winning deck. This has and does win tournaments. You know what I mean? This is a great deck to pick up. So yeah, along with that deck tech and with the sideboard plan we're going to attach, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Krystian, do you want to finish off before we do all the socials and that sort of ending? Is there any last minute things you want to say about this deck, what we might have missed off? And we usually I ask for tips and tricks, but we covered quite a lot in this deck tech. But is there anything last minute you want to mention about this deck?
I'd say that go into playing this deck with an open mind, and really learn from your mistakes. The deck is extremely punishing, because you might find that a mistake that you made on turn one or turn two really punishes you on turn five, where you missed that 1 point of damage just because you forgot to attack, or you were thinking that, actually, you know what, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But learn from it and really kind of extract loads of information from it, because when you build on it, you then realize where the intricacies of this deck
Mm-hmm.
lie. Because as you said, yeah, this deck is very basic in terms of what it's trying to do. 100%. You're just trying to take them from 20 to 0, but getting there can be a wild, wild, wild ride. Yeah.
Intricate is a good word to use for this deck, actually, because there's a lot of intricate decisions.
Hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
So before we do all the socials and shoutouts and end the pod, I just want to shout out UltraPRO, Team Chad Magic, and therefore battlechads are sponsored by UltraPRO. They have a great line of there he is, showing some off there. I've actually got that deck box. It's pretty sick. I don't know what the cross is though. Did you put that on?
Oh, it's no. It was on the notebox.
Oh, is it? Where's mine?
Yeah, it's from the Edge of Eternities. It's from the Edge of Eternities release from UltraPRO.
I have that exact same deck box and this is blew my mind. Where's that X?
On the back.
I don't have it. Mine's a different.
Oh, well, that's because you got a different guild or whatever it
Oh,
was.
is that
from
what
Edge
it
of
is?
Eternities. Open it up. Yeah,
Oh.
open it up. You've got it on your flap there as well.
I mean, it's a cool deck box. Anyway, I digress.
There you go.
I digress. UltraPRO, really good. Thanks for working with us, and thanks for the support you've given us and all the free stuff and the giveaways we've
Yeah, I mean,
done.
UltraPRO is a household name. I mean,
Yeah,
if you've
yeah.
got a playmat, it's probably from UltraPRO.
Yeah. Krystian, is there any shout outs you want to do? Do you want to tell us where we can find you on social media, Twitter, and are you open for questions if people want to approach you with a deck?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can find me on Twitter, Gandifloss MTGO. Gandifloss spelled Ghandy something floss, because Gandhi, the real Gandhi, was taken. Don't ask why I've got the name, I just do. And yeah, I mean, feel free to pop in, ask questions, if I'm available, and obviously I will try to answer. As you can tell, I'm very enthusiastic about the deck. I do like it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit in the rut at the moment, just because of the way that the meta is. With the top deck being, Storm and Titan and Zoo. It's not doing so well at the moment, but it's a deck that as soon as people forget about it, it starts doing well again. So 100%. So you might not see me playing as much at the moment. I also started a new job at the moment this start of this year, so I'm not that active on Modo, but I'm still active nonetheless. So yeah, absolutely. Shout outs. I just want to shout out Chad Magic, massive supporters,
Yep.
big hive mind as well. Really good to definitely help me to kind of get better as a player and kind of help me to get to where I am with my Magic career, and I'm really happy with it as well. So yeah, shout out to UltraPRO from me as well. I'm using their boxes, I'm using the sleeves, I'm using the mats, so I am happy with their support as well. Shout outs apart from that, nah.
Nah. Cool. Thank you everyone for supporting Battle Chads and therefore Chad Magic, but mainly Battle Chads because we don't do any of that commander nonsense. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deck techs, more featured episodes, and I believe by the time you heard this pod, there'll either be an episode already released with a special guest or one released after, depending on how it lines up. But yeah, check out the latest featured episode of Chad Magic.
And remember, share this with your grandma.
Your grandma, your nan.
Your gran.
Your gran. Bye,
what's the card called?
Gran.
Gran. Share this with your gran.
Your gran. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.